This is my studio tour. At the heart of my studio, I have the Trident AT series mixer. I absolutely love this board. It's got a really lush, warm analog sound. The EQs are fantastically smooth. It's got 16 channels with full EQ, 8 auxiliary sends, and it's got another 16 channels on the return channels. Those are great for bringing extra tracks from the DAW. And it also has 8 effects returns. So for a small footprint, I think this is one of the best values out there. I absolutely love it. It sounds great. It sounds big and fat. And that's what I was going for when setting up my studio. I just really wanted the spatialness, the fatness that analog can give you like right away. On the left side of the desk, I have mainly all my compressors set up. So right at the top here, we have the Warm Audio Bus Compressor. It's an SSL emulation. I love the way this thing sounds. It can be subtle or aggressive depending on what you want. And I love the fact that you can engage the transformers on or off. And I can tell you, I pretty much always have the transformers engaged. It just gives it more weight to the mix. It's got a really lush sound. I love it. Underneath that, we have the Klark Teknik 1176 and LA2A emulation. Now, since I'm not using a patch bay, I have everything kind of wired the way I like. And, with the convenience of a DAW, I can send in any channel to any compressor and work that way. The only thing that I have working in serial are these two compressors chained up, the 1176 one first, followed by the LA2A, and I pretty much keep that for my vocal chain. I love the way that sounds on vocals. So down here we have more compression. We have two DBX 160X compressors. I generally like those for kick and snare, although they sound great on other sources as well. Below that I have a DBX 168A. It's a stereo compressor. It has a built-in de-esser. I really like this for a parallel drum bus compressor. I really like it for that. So I do have it set up on a mix bus, on a sub bus, and I generally do use it for drums or bass or anything that I just want to kind of squash and bring it back into the mix. Below that, I have a Joemeek VC6Q. I really like that on bass. It has a really nice low-end bottom to it. I tend to use a little bit of the low-end EQ on that. It's just a different flavor from my board, and then the rest I mix off my board. Below that, we have the Golden Age Comp 3A compressors. These are fantastic. They did an incredible job with emulating the real thing. They sound great on pretty much anything. I generally have it for guitars and synthesizers, but like I said, they do sound fantastic on pretty much anything that I tried it on. Below that, I have more compression. So I'm trying to keep away from plugins, and I want every channel on my board to have compression available if I need it. I don't want to have to reach for a plugin if I don't have to. So that's just kind of a cheap unit that I picked up, but it's got 8 channels of compression or limiting. And like I said, it's on the extra channels that, if I'm running a synthesizer or an organ, I just need quick compression. I can just grab it. It's there. I don't need to reach for a plugin. It's really handy. So below that, it's a kind of a quirky compressor. I couldn't find any info on it. I got a really good deal on it. It sounds good. It sounds like there's some iron in it. It's an EP141 stereo compressor. So I pretty much just keep those for background vocals. Below that is an interesting unit. It's the Drawmer TS2 tube station. So it's a compressor and it's got a built-in tube distortion in it. It's really nice on pianos, organs, synthesizers. Occasionally I'll run a vocal or a bass on a sub channel and really squash it with that, and it really gives it a nice vibe. Back on my desk, here we have the Softube Console 1. Now, when I was mixing strictly in the box, I used this thing exclusively. It's really nice because you can just grab your compressor, your EQ, select any channel super quickly. Even though I'm mixing everything outside of the box, it is still handy. I'm not going to get rid of it because if I do need to do some surgical EQ on something, on a return channel that, I don't have the full EQ on the board, I can just grab that quickly and not have to reach for my mouse. And it's really nice to have. And next to that is the controller for the Roland R880 Reverb effects unit. This thing is absolutely incredible. It was built in 1989. It's a monster unit. It's 2 spaces on my rack that you'll see later. But it's basically 2 in, 4 out. It sounds absolutely incredible. I have a hard time believing that something made in 1989 sounds better than most reverb units today. It is absolutely fantastic. If you have a chance to pick one of these things up, I highly recommend you do so. It is really quirky and really kind of difficult to use until you kind of get used to it. But once you know their quirky menu system, you'll be able to create your own patches pretty easily. So here we are back on the desk, and this is the Mooger MF104M analog delay. I absolutely love this thing. It's really rare. They're not making it anymore. The price has gone through the roof of these things. If you can pick up one of these for a deal, I highly recommend you pick this thing up. In my opinion, there's no plugin that can really emulate this thing. It's really fat. It sits in a mix incredibly well. And that's the thing with plugins. Sometimes they don't. You have to kind of massage it more. This thing always sounds good. Like I said, it's just lush and fat. And I use it all the time for vocals, for piano, for synthesizers. It's just wonderful. And here we have more effects units. Starting from the top, we have the Vermona VSR 3.2 spring reverb unit. I've always loved springs. They sound really cool on guitars, on snare drums, on synthesizers. So it is a mono unit. I love this thing. Like I said, I use it all the time. And below that, we have the Lexicon PCM80. It's more of a multi-effects than reverb, but it does have reverb. If I ever want the Lexicon sound on a voice, it's there. But primarily, I use it for multi-effects. It's really good on guitars, synthesizers, pianos. It's got a lot going on. It's really nice. Below that, I have the Lexicon MPX 550. I got a pretty good deal on that thing. And I pretty much always have that set on the PCM60 room setting. It does a really good emulation of that particular unit, and I love just having that patch available to me on any mix. Below that is the Alesis Quadraverb. I got a good deal on this thing, and I absolutely love this thing. It is really unique. I generally use it for chorus, but it's got really cool multi-effects. For synthesizers and guitars, you can do some pretty wacky and crazy things with this thing. It's really nice. Below that, we have what is, in my opinion, one of the best delay units ever made. It is the Korg SDD-3000. And I love this thing. It's simple. You got all the controls on the front, and I use that thing all the time. It's a different vibe than the Moog. The Moog is a lot fatter and warmer. This thing is just different. But like I said, I love delays, and between the Moog and the Korg unit, I'm pretty much covered with everything that I can want in a delay. And this is the last bottom section of my rack. So at the top, we have my interface. It's the Presonus Quantum 4848. If you need an interface with a lot of ins and outs, I think value-wise and sound-wise, nothing beats this unit. It sounds incredible. I've had Apogee in the past. I've had the Digi-converters. This thing is much better in my opinion. Now, it's got a total of 48 in, 48 out if you need that many. It's got 32 in and out on DB25 connectors, which is really handy, and an additional 16 channel ins and outs on ADAT. So if you really need a lot of channels, this thing is absolutely incredible. Below that, I have my main preamp. Now, I gotta say, the preamps on the board are absolutely fantastic, so that's why I will never buy any more preamps. but I wanted something extra special, especially for vocal recording. And I did a lot of auditioning, and I found that this is one of the best units that you can buy today. I love the Neve sound, and I love the API sound, and I feel like this unit kind of incorporates a bit of both. It's got the smoothness of the Neve, and it's a little bit more upfront like an API, and it sounds absolutely stunning on vocals, on direct recordings for bass and guitar. It's really fat. It's got an incredible amount of gain. So that's the Chandler TG2. I highly recommend this thing. Like I said, when it came down to picking out a preamp, I pretty much narrowed it down to this one, a Neve emulation, the BAE, the 1073, and the Teknik pre. I can't remember the name of that one, but I felt this one was just a little bit better than those other two, and I'm super happy with it. So below that, I have one more effects unit, the TC Electronics M300. Now, because on my board I have 8 FX sends, this is like the 9th one, so I actually have that one set up on one of the buses. So if I ever need something extra for a particular sound, I have it. I like the fact that the controls are all on the front. I don't have to fiddle with any menu, and it sounds pretty good. For the money I paid for this thing, it's really nice. Now below that is an interesting unit. It's the Korg Kec-42. The only reason I picked this unit up is because I needed some extra EQ on a few effects units. Now basically with my mixer I have 16 channels with full EQ, and then it's got 16 channels without EQ, just basic panning and volume. But on those extra channels I'm running effects returns, and because the Moog and the Vermona spring reverb is so fat, I wanted to have an EQ in case I need to tailor the low end in particular. So I'm running those two units through the Korg, and I have low end and high end control, and I can just do a quick tweak of that. But I found it's got a built-in compressor, so I actually have another bus on my board set up through that compressor and that EQ, and I often use that for a drum parallel compression mix as well, and it sounds really good. And below that we have the Roland R880, the main unit. I showed you the tabletop interface that connects to that. So that, like I said, is one of the best reverb units, especially for its time. Considering it was made in 1989, that thing just sounds incredible. It's lush. It disappears nicely in a mix. It's a little different than a Lexicon unit, but I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite reverb units of all time. And finally, I had some extra space on my rack, so I got this drawer. I thought this will come in handy for storing some extra cables, a tuner, or whatever else that I need. And here we have the Manley Reference C Anniversary Edition microphone. I really wanted one of the best microphones you can get for vocal recording, and based on my experience with all the mics I've used, I thought if I could have one really nice expensive microphone, this would be it. And I'm really happy with this microphone. It's really smooth. It sits in a mix really well. And like I said, this is the Anniversary Edition. It's the exact Manley Reference C. It just comes in a sparkly white finish, and I thought that was kind of cool that it kind of goes with the desk. Now, in case you're curious, they do have the Manley Silver and the Manley Gold. The Manley Silver, it's based on a different microphone, I think. It sounds totally different than this. The Manley Gold would have been my second choice. It's very close to this microphone with a little bit more low end. But for vocal recording, I actually think the Manley Reference C is the best out of all the Manleys. So what I like about it, it's got a really modern sound, and it's got a really high output. So if your preamp has a super high output and you have a loud singer, you might need to use the pad on the microphone. Otherwise, it's a great mic. For monitoring, I'm using the Neumann KH80 monitors. They're really small and compact, but they are absolutely incredible little monitors. A lot of people would use these with a sub. I would probably recommend that depending on your room. I have a small room. I've gotten used to them, and I find between mixing on these and my headphones, I'm pretty much getting the results that I want. So here we have one of my headphones. They're the CAD, I believe 150. They're really comfortable. They're closed back. The only reason I got them is so that when I'm recording vocals, I'm not leaking into the microphone. I would not recommend mixing on these things. They don't sound that good, I'll be quite honest. They're really bassy, but like I said, they're comfortable, they don't leak music, and they're good for that purpose. And here I have my trusty Beyerdynamic T1 headphones. They're the original version. I've had these for many, many years, and I've mixed many songs exclusively on these things. I've gotten so used to them. They sound really neutral, and I've gotten excellent results on it. I mean, a lot of people say you can't mix on headphones. I have mixed on headphones, and these songs have ended up on radio and national television shows, so it's just basically what you're used to. And here we have my bass and guitar. The bass is a custom bass that my girlfriend got me. We put it together and we painted it ourselves, and it sounds fantastic. I mean, I like it. I found these, I got these black strings on Amazon, and I've never seen black bass guitar strings, but they sound really good, and I'll probably buy them again. And here's my guitar. It's the Godin A6. I really love this thing. I wanted a guitar that I can switch easily between acoustic and electric, especially while recording in the studio. And since I live in an apartment, I don't like miking guitars and amplifiers because then I'm disturbing a lot of people. I want something that sounds good, just plugging it in, and this guitar is really good. I was really torn between this one and the Taylor T5, but this one is way less. It's like less than half the price, and it sounds incredible. The action is amazing, and it's got this really cool extra feature. It's got 2 outputs, so if you choose to, you can actually record the electric guitar pickup and the acoustic pickup at the same time, and then decide in the mix what you want to keep. So that's a really cool feature that I haven't really found any other guitars that have it. But yeah, I think it's called Godin is the right pronunciation. It's a Canadian brand. Absolutely great guitar. The action is amazing. It stays in tune for a month. I mean, it's just really, really well built. For a controller keyboard, I have a Roland A880. It's compact, it fits on my desk, and the keys feel really nice. It's got a really nice action to it. They don't feel cheap like a lot of other keyboards. And finally, this is my desk. It's the Studio Desk Classic Edition. I love this thing. It's really classy. It's built really, really well. I think it looks really nice. It is a little bit pricey, but you know, if you want something that's going to be the centerpiece of your studio and you're looking to do this full time, I highly recommend a nice desk because it makes you feel good. You know, you're sitting in front of a nice desk, you have all your gear. It just puts you in a good mood. And that's it for the studio tour. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification button. If you have any questions, just leave me a comment and I will do my very best to answer your questions. Thank you.